If you like our podcast, you'll probably enjoy another one called Web 2+1, hosted by our friend Violetta. She does fascinating in-depth interviews with leading tech entrepreneurs in blockchain and crypto. Check out the link in the description for further details. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Epic Web3 podcast. My name is Alex, I'm your host, and today we're going to talk about all things liquid staking, restaking, especially Bitcoin, liquid staking, and everything with Mikhil, co-founder of Persistent Labs, the company behind Persistence One, pSTAKE, Dexter, and other products. So, hi, Mikhil. Good to see you. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Alex. Thanks for having me. Very excited to be here.
So, where are you based? Where are you based right now? Where are you connecting from?
I am connecting from Southeast Asia. I was here for GM Vietnam last couple of days. So just wrapping that up. But I'm based in Dubai.
Nice, nice. How
Yeah, so dialing in from a
was
hotel room.
how was the event in Vietnam?
Actually, very busy. I think like there were so many people. I think they definitely had more than like 5,000 people at the main event. I primarily went to some side events. It was pretty good actually. Nice set of people. I was surprised to see so many non-Asians as well. I think GM Vietnam was mostly like Asia heavy. You would expect people from, Asian, from the Asian part of the world, Singapore, but there were lots of people outside from Europe as well, which was very interesting to see. So yeah, I think good quality of projects, good quality of, people who were looking to learn about crypto. So definitely, I think this was one of the most busy events I recently attended. So it's good.
Nice, nice. And where is your team based?
So we are a fully global team. We have people all over the world. I think mostly Dubai, Singapore, some in Europe, some in Thailand. We have people, yeah, pretty much everywhere at this stage. So we're a team of about 25 to 30. We keep, moving up down between 25, 30. We've stayed this at this size for over, I would say 2.5, 3 years now, similar size across the last few years. So yeah, we've had, very good people join us, and we've kind of bolstered the team on the product side. Everything that we wanted to bolster, we've figured out how to bolster those teams, and now in a pretty good shape when it comes to the team and the dynamics of the team.
Yeah, I got you. And what is your what is your next event?
I mean, I probably will go to ETHCC. I'll be traveling quite a bit this year, so ETHCC could be a good one, and from there we'll see what next.
Yeah, yeah, ICC will be huge.
Are you gonna be
Okay,
there?
so yeah, for sure, sure. We are organizing 3 different events there. We're making AI plus Web3 hackathon. We are making L2Con. We are making restaking day there, and yeah, we'll be there with like almost all our
Nice.
team. um,
Yeah.
Probably one of the main events during the year, and definitely the main one in Europe, at least for the ETH
Good.
ecosystem. So,
Absolutely.
can you start with briefly describing what Persistence One is today? So I think you started about 5 years ago, but since then you had a bunch of pivots, launched different products. So what are you focusing on right now?
Yeah, so the way we are structured is persistence is like a Cosmos L1 that's, focused on its own thing, and pSTAKE is focused on its own thing. I'd like to talk about pSTAKE, and so Persistence Labs we started in 2019. We built, primarily within the Cosmos ecosystem. So a lot of the team members we have come from the Cosmos ecosystem, very early into Cosmos. Started, looking at Game of Stakes back in the day, Game of Zones. So like very early days of Cosmos, before even the Cosmos Hub was live, for example. So in 2019, there were two blockchains, POS, which were live, Tezos and Cosmos. And we had a choice to make between building within the Cosmos ecosystem and the Tezos ecosystem. We chose Cosmos because of the app chain thesis, which I would say seems to be playing out very well, right? Like a lot of chains have decided to become app chains. You start seeing sovereign roll-ups, roll-apps, all these different concepts and terms meaning the same thing, which is having the ability to, build applications that are focused, build chains that are focused on specific applications. But again, for us, we started in 2019. We focused on liquid staking in 2020. So late 2020, we decided to do liquid staking. It was still very early for liquid staking. Lido wasn't live yet, and there wasn't it wasn't a very hyped up sector, right? Nobody knew it's going to be that big. Our thesis was that any yield asset that comes into play kind of replaces the native asset to become the default for everything that happens on top of that asset. So the belief was that once LSTs come, LSTs would replace native assets and become the base asset for DeFi. And that turned out pretty well for Ethereum, not for Cosmos. Sadly for us, we wanted to bet on Cosmos because we thought, okay, we can go scale horizontally across multiple chains. So instead of just betting on ETH as an asset, you could do liquid staking for Atom, for Osmo, for 20 other chains that keep coming into existence over time. Obviously, there were some flaws in the thesis, one of which was having too much faith and belief in the Cosmos ecosystem itself, that'll pick up LC users. And so far, that hasn't happened. Obviously, I don't think we can say that it will never happen. I'm fairly certain at some point Cosmos should see that influx of people and flow of users and volumes. But in this moment, that hasn't happened. The other thing that we realized recently was every chain wants to build its own ecosystem. So you have a Cosmos ecosystem, you have, the Atom Economic Zone, you have Osmosis, it wants to have its own DeFi ecosystem. You have Say, which wants to build its own DeFi ecosystem. Injective building its own DeFi ecosystem. So everybody wants dedicated layer one dApps. So Injective has Hydro as for liquid staking. Say has a liquid staking dApp. So every chain ended up trying to have its native liquid staking application, which you could argue is a good thing, is a bad thing. Again, I don't think we need to go into those things, but we built the first Atom LST back in 2020. So our objective was to do 2021, we went live. We started building in 2020, 2021, we went live with the first Atom LST. At this point in time, there was no IBC, no DEX in Cosmos, nothing was live. So it was like super, super early. And this was before liquid staking was that big of a deal. So we've been very early to staking. In 2019, we made this bet on staking as an ecosystem POS. We were very early to liquid staking, and we had about 55-60 million in TVL in early 2022 before the Terra collapse and happened, and kind of the Terra ecosystem, Cosmos ecosystem blew up with it. So we had some momentum until 2022, and then we built a newer version of Atom liquid staking that could also support other chains in parallel. So you use the same tech to support multiple liquid staking, multiple layer ones within Cosmos. But recently, we've been looking at something very different, which is Bitcoin, and how you could do Bitcoin liquid staking or liquid restaking, whatever you want to call it. But that's been something that's very exciting to us because of what it brings to the table. It brings, yields to an asset that never has.
Sorry to interrupt. We'll definitely talk about Bitcoin staking and BTCFI and everything. But let me ask a couple of questions on that. So first of all, why? So you said that you started building on Cosmos and you started building liquid staking on Cosmos. Why do you think it still didn't take off so well as the liquid staking on Ethereum?
Very good question. I think there are a few reasons for that. And maybe, everybody has different answers for this. My view is that when Ethereum liquid staking came out, Ethereum already had a flourishing DeFi ecosystem. ETH DeFi already existed while Lido launched. So what happened was people automatically replaced ETH with STETH. If they were using ETH to borrow on Aave, they started using STETH. So there was a particular type of user base on Ethereum that already existed that was not staking heavy. ETH did not have staking before Lido came out. So everybody was doing DeFi. On the other hand, Cosmos only knew about staking. The staking ratio on the Cosmos Hub, which is the total supply in circulation versus the actual total supply. The staking ratio was 70%, 65% at all times. So most people just knew about staking their atoms and that's it. They didn't care about DeFi. There was no winner for let's say a money market. You couldn't borrow, with a lot of atoms. You couldn't do much of those things. So when Atom liquid staking came out, there was just not enough demand because Atom, the holder base itself, was not familiar with DeFi and was not ready to dip their toes into Atom DeFi. When actually liquid staking for Atom came out, I would say in like end of 22, early 23, we were already in the bear market. So there was obviously not enough demand to borrow assets, because what do you do after borrowing your assets, borrowing these assets? So like the lack of a built out DeFi ecosystem in Cosmos with the kind of users that already existed who were very staking focused, staking heavy, I think that kind of led to the slowdown of Cosmos liquid staking growth.
Yeah, I got you. And which ecosystem, which blockchain has the best DeFi ecosystem? I mean, apart from Ethereum, for sure.
I would just say like Solana has, good DeFi, right? I would say a little bit too good with the meme coin mania. But I think Sui has has a pretty good ecosystem. It's a very good blockchain. I've used it. I've liked it. Other than that, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's many that have really nailed down DeFi ecosystems. Obviously, some L2s on Ethereum have done really well, but if you go beyond Ethereum and Solana, I don't know. Maybe Ton could do well. Ton has had some very good momentum recently. So Ton looks promising. I'm excited about Monad. Monad should do well. It could bring very interesting new applications. So that could be exciting.
So, do you think your bet on Cosmos back then was kind of a mistake? Would you do it? Would you do it differently if you could come back?
Actually, I don't think so, man. That's the thing. I think like with the parameters and the inputs we had, with the variables, different variables, and with the information we had, I would probably still end up making the same, decision, because like the thesis was almost there. It's like horizontal scaling of applications, application chains, each having staking. The TAM is so huge. It's a very unique opportunity. It's a staking first chain. People care about staking their assets. They don't want to miss out on staking yields. Liquid staking is better. Why would people not use it? I still don't have an answer why people don't choose liquid staking, by the way. It's very weird to me. I just don't know why. Maybe it's the distribution of assets, it's the holder base, right? But most likely would still make the same decision, man. And I don't even know if it's a mistake, right? Tomorrow, Cosmos liquid staking picks up massively. You would call me a fool here, but for me, it's not about Cosmos liquid staking. It's about building for the asset. Is it exciting to build for Atom, or is it exciting to build for some other asset? Uh, so that's the question that we've been trying to answer, and I think we have an answer for that question now.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. So you mentioned recently on your X account or on your Twitter account, I don't know how to call it. You mentioned that you haven't found product market fit for pSTAKE yet, but you hope to change it with Bitcoin liquid staking, right? So first of all, why are you so bullish on this Bitcoin liquid staking thing?
Yeah, so I think if you look at, again, maybe take a step back, right? People compare BTC with gold, digital gold they call it. I think the idea that Bitcoin will be used for payments is something people have already given up on, which is, I think, a very good thing to do, because uh, we have seen USD stable coins do really well, and they are the preferred means of payments. And I hope it stays like that. Bitcoin is not for payments because it's just so difficult to use it for anything. So Bitcoin as a store of value has become a very prominent meme, and it's turning out to be the right one so far. Now you look at gold. Gold inherently has had no yield. Like, Warren Buffett does not have gold in his portfolio. Why? Because it doesn't have any yield. It's a negative carry asset, which is never a good thing when it comes to large asset classes. So the good thing about Bitcoin so far, actually the one negative thing about Bitcoin so far has been that it hasn't had any inherent yield. But how do you create yield in ways which are more, conservative, which are not super aggressive, that you're just lending out your Bitcoin hoping somebody's not gonna, take it away from you someday without returning the loan. Uh, so in a way, Bitcoin hasn't had that yield layer yet. What we are starting to see now with shared security restaking is different forms of yield creations. So the creation of yield through securing other chains within different ecosystems, within the same ecosystem. Yeah, so Bitcoin so far has not had any yield layer, but with the introduction of restaking shared security, you start seeing Bitcoin producing yield, because we've seen how restaking has played out in Ethereum with EigenLayer, and how much there is, how much supply side exists for this product, because there's $20 billion worth of ETH looking to generate yield on their ETH. Whether it's in the form of points or in the form of actual yield through AVS security. But we're seeing some demand for it. The problem with Eigenlayer and Ethereum, I believe, is that ETH already has inherent yield. So there's about 2, 3, 4% of staking yield that you see on Ethereum already. The good thing with Bitcoin is there's no yield at all. There's 0%. How do you generate anything? So the moment Babylon introduces restaking into the concept, or just Bitcoin staking, they call it Bitcoin staking because there's no native staking. So it's not restaking, it's just native staking. So you bring your Bitcoin trustlessly, you stake it with Babylon, you secure other chains in the form of economic security that you provide through the Bitcoin that you hold. Why I'm super bullish on it is because Bitcoin has no yield, and this provides a way for people to generate yield on their Bitcoin. And there is no every chain that wants to borrow security tomorrow. If they have to make a decision between choosing ETH as an asset that is used to secure their chain or Bitcoin, if you're objective and you're not, thinking just from a ETH alignment perspective, you would want Bitcoin to secure your chain or service. Why? Because it's the most stable asset in the industry. It's the largest asset. It's a $1 trillion asset, man. Like, there's no other asset that's better than it. So why would you not want Bitcoin security? Why would you want ETH security? So that kind of makes me bullish on Bitcoin staking, restaking. And there's this other aspect of where the yield comes from. That is also something I'm very excited about when it comes to Bitcoin staking over Eigenlayer and ETH staking, and we can talk about that.
Yeah. Okay. So you're launching it. Yeah, you mentioned that you're launching it in collaboration with Babylon Chain, right? So can you tell us more about why did you choose them? Is there any alternative now, and why didn't you build your own solution for that? So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think so. Right now, the ways to earn yield on Bitcoin are very simple. Either you use the Bitcoin for some CDFI strategies, which, for example, BounceBit is doing, right? They run the basis trade, arbitrage strategy. They run some lending options or whatever. You could do those CDFI plays to generate yield on your Bitcoin. But what's the most palatable way for people to use their Bitcoin is to have custody of your Bitcoin, and Babylon enables for that. You do not give up custody of Bitcoin at any given point. You sign a transaction that says, okay, my Bitcoin is time locked for a certain period of time. It's going to secure this service because I'm going to delegate my Bitcoin to a finality provider, which is similar to a delegator, a validator on these different consumer chains. And the reason why we went with Babylon is because they're they've been building on the Bitcoin side for a while now. They're a strong team, research focused team, and there's nobody I think who's better than them at what they're trying to achieve. Why we didn't build it is we've realized you have to focus on one thing and one thing only. You cannot try to do two things. Forget 3, 4 things. If we try to build the staking layer ourselves and then try to build the liquid staking, restaking layer ourselves, it'll be too complex. We want to focus on one thing, which is to provide people with these yield opportunities through Babylon, but also keep their tokens liquid and make sure that the Bitcoin that is securing these other services through Babylon is as secure as possible. So that's our thought process.
Will you be the only protocol enabling liquid staking on top of Babylon, or
Absolutely not. I hope not. I mean, there are a few already. There are a few players already that are building this and have communicated about it. I think Lorenzo, Lombard, a few more. Obviously, I would imagine there would be 10 plus players. It's like you have an ETHFi, Renzo, Puffer, all those different players, right? Our objective is to kind of be like ETHFi, be the biggest one there, and be the best one.
Yeah, got you. So why do you think Bitcoin ecosystem is on hype and booming right now? So I mean, Bitcoin has been around for many years, but only today I think we see a lot of BTCFI products, different Bitcoin layer 2s and everything. So it looks like the ecosystem is super lively right now. It wasn't like this before.
Yeah, it's a very good question. I have a very controversial take on this. First of all, I'm not very bullish on the BTC L2 landscape as it stands today because most are just side chains, EVM side chains that have nothing to do with the Bitcoin network, but just are accepting BTC through custodians, through MPC bridges, which I would not advocate for. It's very opportunistic of people, right? You see an opportunity, you jump into it, and you're like, okay, I want to do this, because there's an opportunity to make money here. What I like about where we are headed is people are very open to the idea of experimenting with Bitcoin, right? 2013, 2015, people thought that Bitcoin, is going to be like used for a particular reason, but expectations change when people start experimenting with things. You start seeing newer and newer developments. People thought Taproot wasn't going to happen. Taproot happened. People thought SegWit won't happen. SegWit happened anyway. Now people are saying, okay, BTC L2s won't happen. I believe BTC L2s will happen. Hopefully not in its current state, because the current state is nasty. I hope, OpCats, OpCats, hopefully it happens end of the year, because that then creates like a very unique opportunity, right? So for me, what I think is people are more open to the idea of using Bitcoin for various things now, except it's going to lead to a lot more problems in the short term, where some BTC L2 is going to rug pull, some BTC L2 is going to go, they lose some Bitcoin, and that's going to cause a lot of problems. It's the same as what happened with ETH DeFi. I don't think there is, to me, what I think is Bitcoin as an asset, you should not be looking to build a BTC L2 to create use case for Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin as an asset can go on every single chain out there. And I do believe there's a future where, different chains would want to settle their transactions on the Bitcoin network. Like Starknet, they said, okay, we want to use both Ethereum and Bitcoin network for settlement. I think that's a very bright future for me, because then you're not being a maxi and saying, okay, I'll only settle on this one chain. So I see a future where a lot of these rollups and other chains would want to settle, use the Bitcoin network for settlement. And that's a very bright future. But for me, what matters is the yield layer of Bitcoin, where how do we create yield opportunities on Bitcoin anywhere possible in the safest, securest manner. So that is kind of what I get excited about. BTCFI is not about BTC L2s. It's about Bitcoin being utilized in different places, the openness for people to do that. But for that, we need some more developments to happen on the Bitcoin network before the BTC can be bridged out here, there, everywhere in a safe, secure manner.
Yeah. Thanks for explaining this and your point of view here. That makes sense. But but I think you didn't answer why now. Why do you think it's booming now?
Man, I think it's obviously, the hype around, we are in a bull market, somewhat, maybe not. And, people want to experiment. I think, although again, I do think, man, I don't, so why now? The answer to that is because you're in a market where people want to be opportunistic. I don't think the inflows have come in from the right places yet. I think it's a few people providing TVL here to farm some coins, dump them. That's what's happening. I don't think we've gotten to the point where Bitcoin DeFi is happening yet. It will happen, but the regular user is not putting money in any of these BTC L2s. Is my view.
Yeah,
but
in terms of users, who do you think you are focusing on? Is it like, I don't know, regular retail users, more institutional investors? What do you think here?
I would say it's a mix of users, but most importantly, people who understand POS, right? And are still like big on Bitcoin. So in the past, you would only see Bitcoin holders holding POW assets. They would not care about POS. They would be like, oh, POS is a scam. POS is a problem. Proof of work is the only way we go forward. Today, you have a class of people who've come in the last few years, in the last 5-7 years, who've said that, okay, Bitcoin is Bitcoin, it's proof of work, but there's proof of stake and it works very well. So they understand proof of stake, they understand what happens in the background, and they hold Bitcoin. Those are the kind of users I would say we personally want to go after initially, because they understand the risks that they are taking. They understand the risks that come with staking and slashing. That would be my first, set of people that I would say we should go after, as not just us, anybody, because then you're not trying to bring in a newbie who has no clue about staking, but is taking on risk. In the short run, you look after those people, and those could include both institutions and regular users. Those could include miners who hold so much Bitcoin that they want to generate some yields on those Bitcoins without having to go out in the market and say, oh yeah, I believe in proof of stake. I'm sure there are so many Bitcoin OGs and holders who've been saying, oh, not your keys, not your assets, but they would still probably be using the Bitcoin as collateral somewhere to borrow against it, to do certain things, right? So we want to go after people who want to use Bitcoin to generate yields and do things with those assets.
How do you plan to attract these users? So what is your, I don't know, marketing plan? Something you can share, of course. Um, what are the main channels of user acquisition and everything?
Absolutely. I think the most important is like, going after the right user base, like you said. So one is education, because there's a lot of Bitcoin holders who are open to the idea of doing things with the Bitcoin, but don't know what to do with them, right? So there's so many people who've bridged Bitcoin from the Bitcoin network to Ethereum, WBTC holders. WBTC now is like, what does it do? Not much. We want to go after WBTC holders. If you hold WBTC, why not just convert it to YBTC, which is the yield Bitcoin token that we will issue, pSTAKE issues. So go after WBTC holders, educate everybody who holds WBTC. They should hear about YBTC and why it's a better asset than WBTC. That's one part of the playbook. The other is like really going after people who understand. I think there's a lot of common ground between the Cosmos ecosystem and Bitcoin ecosystem. A lot of Cosmos people are real Bitcoin OGs. They have a lot of, the values between Cosmos and Bitcoin are super similar, man. The whole idea about decentralization. I think Cosmos has always focused on decentralization, sovereignty, and those kinds of simple things that we see. A lot of common ground. So want to go after people who are like understand Cosmos but also hold Bitcoin. So more education towards staking, more education towards Cosmos and Bitcoin, the similarities. Yeah, I would say those could be like good starting points. And obviously, people who look to generate yield on their Bitcoin, we tell them where these yields come from. Obviously, that's the most important thing. So, being able to generate high yields is a very big thing for us. If we can do that, and obviously that has a big dependency on Babylon, because Babylon's going to secure some chains. Now, like if we can tell people these are the yields and where they come from with what risks, I think we'll already be able to attract a lot of people. So that's kind of the playbook that we are looking at.
Are you going to launch some kind of incentivization programs? I don't know, points farming, something like this.
I mean, I cannot confirm that right now, but obviously the launch should be an interesting one.
When is it?
We are expecting to launch by the end of June. So yeah, hopefully in the next
Okay.
15-20 days.
I hope we will publish this pod before.
I hope so too.
I think it will. I think it will be published in the end of the June. In the end of June. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about liquid staking and restaking in general. So can I don't know, Ethereum or some other in some other assets. So can you explain what liquid staking and restaking is for those who don't fully understand the concept? So maybe they know it, like the basics, but they don't understand the concept fully.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. One is actually, before I try to do that, let me explain staking in very simple terms. So, staking essentially is a way for any holder of a POS asset. So, let's take the example of ETH. ETH is a proof of work, it used to be a proof of work chain, became a proof of stake chain where you could start staking your ETH to participate in network consensus. Essentially, on every blockchain, you have blocks. Each block has a bunch of transactions. And then you have a new block, and then you have a new block. So that kind of forms the blockchain to produce each block. Who's producing these blocks? Who's saying, oh, this block should have X data, Y data, these 1,000 transactions, these 100 transactions? Those are validators. That's who we call validators. But how can one validate a chain? You need some stake. You need to have some assets at stake. So if Alex, you are running a validator node, and I have ETH, I say, okay, I'm going to stake my ETH with, obviously, Ethereum is not delegated proof of stake. We don't need to go into those specifics, but assume I can delegate my ETH. I can say, okay, I have 100 ETH. I wish I did in this moment, but if I have 100 ETH, I'm gonna delegate that 100 ETH with Alex and on his validator node. And if Alex validates the transaction, so if somebody's sending some ETH to somebody else, Alex picks it up, puts it in the block, and he's like, okay, I'm going to propose this block. If Alex does the right thing, if you do all the right things and you don't do anything malicious, if you don't try to put some transaction that does not exist in the block, you will be rewarded for it by some new ETH tokens that come into supply every block. And that a portion of that you will keep, but you'll return a big portion of that to me because it's my assets that are also at stake. Because I said, okay, you can, I don't have the technical expertise to run a validator. Please, Alex, you run it for me, but I will provide you with the capital in the background. But this 100 ETH is not all at stake because if Alex, you do something malicious, a portion of that is going to get slashed, which means it'll be burned from supply. So I lose some capital, and so do you. You lose some of your own capital, you lose some of your delegators' capital. That's why you'll probably run out of business. You will not be in business anymore at some point if you keep losing somebody's capital. So that's kind of how staking works, where you delegate your assets to somebody, you earn some rewards for that. But in the process of this, I have locked up my assets with you, Alex. It's locked up on your validator node. I can't use it for anything else. It's just sitting there until I choose to withdraw it and bond it. And even then, I'll have to wait for a certain period. It won't be immediate that I get the assets back. I'll have to wait for a cool off or an unbonding period, whatever you call it. Staking is a way to secure a blockchain, earn some rewards in return for that, because you're participating in network consensus. You're participating in the creation and validation of blocks on a chain, which is a very exciting thing. But it comes with a problem. Like I said, your assets are locked up. You're just earning some rewards in 2, 3, 4% on the Ethereum network, which may not be enough for you. So you want to do something else with it. You probably won't stake because it's pretty little for you, let's say. Now here is where liquid staking comes in, where instead of directly staking it with you, Alex, I send it through a dApp on the Ethereum network like Lido, where Lido, I deposit my ETH, and Lido will delegate that ETH with you. But Lido will issue me a receipt. It'll give me like, an LST, a liquid stake token, which will represent the value of the underlying ETH that I sent to Lido, which will then, be delegated to your node. So if I put 100 ETH, I get 100 ST ETH, 100 staked Ether. That staked Ether I can use to do anything. I can use it as collateral on Aave, borrow USDC against it. But in the background, that 100 ST ETH represents ETH, which was staked with Alex's validator node via Lido. So it's earning some staking rewards. So when I repay my loan on Aave, I've made some profits with the USDC. I did some trading, so I use the collateral well. I withdraw the collateral. I say, okay, Lido, here's the receipt back. Give me my ETH back. So I'll get my ETH back with some staking rewards. Or I could just use the 100 ST to sell it and get ETH from somebody else who wants to, get ST ETH, for example. But when I get ETH that I deposited, 100 ETH plus some staking rewards, because somebody else can claim those staking rewards back. So it's kind of how liquid staking works. The concept of restaking is somewhat different because now you have so much staked ETH and so much liquid staked ETH that exists. Is that even important? Is that even required? It's surplus capital. What do you do with it? What do you do with surplus capital? So you think, okay, maybe what I do with it is I secure some other blockchains because I'm securing the Ethereum blockchain in such a nice way. I don't need to secure it anymore. It doesn't need so many assets to secure the chain. So what you start doing then is I had this ST ETH. I take it into a protocol like EigenLayer and I deposit my ST ETH into EigenLayer. So a lot of people start doing that. And there's a pool of ST ETH, and some other ETH LSTs, for example. Let's say the economic value of this is $20 billion. So there's $20 billion worth of assets sitting in a smart contract, which can then be used to secure smaller chains. So now I create, let's say, Alex, you create an Alex chain. I create a Mikhil chain. Somebody else creates a Alice chain, a Bob chain. So you have all these different chains which don't have network security. How do you create security for them? Through using the liquid staked ETH and the normal ETH in this contract as staked assets, as collateral. So if you stake it here, you earn some staking rewards from Alex chain, some from Mikhil chain, some from Alice chain, some from Bob chain. But in return, if these chains, all of these chains also have validators like Alex validator, Mikhil validator, some other validators, if any of those validators perform maliciously, some of your staked ETH will be slashed. So what you're earning now is staking rewards from these 4 different chains, staking reward from the Ethereum network because you had your ETH staked in the form of STETH, and you can have a liquid restake token on top of this. Now that's liquid restaking, which is similar to STETH, but it's called, let's say, RETH, ETH, whatever, you can call it any other ETH, LRT, which is the liquid restake token. So that's staking, liquid staking, restaking, liquid restaking. Obviously sounds very complex when I explain it, but I hope it was not too bad.
Yeah, super cool, super cool explanation. Actually, yeah. I listen to different explanations from different people, and I try to understand it better myself, and yeah, it definitely helps. So the concept is not so easy, but yeah, when you talk to different people, when you listen to it from different angles, you understand it better. And so so why do you think? So why do you think EigenLayer is so popular right now? And what are the, I don't know, what are the pros and cons of this restaking thing in general?
I think restaking creates a new layer of yield. That's the pro, because you're earning not just staking rewards of the underlying network, of the native chain of the Ethereum network, you're also earning staking rewards from other services chains. So you're earning more yield. That's the pro, but it comes with more risk, right? Because now your ETH can not just get slashed in the ETH network, but also on other networks, other chains. So in a way, it comes with more risks. It comes with more rewards. I think EigenLayer has a lot of hype because I don't think people are staking their ETH, restaking their ETH on EigenLayer for additional yield through securing other services or chains. It's because of the EigenLayer token hype, and I don't think EigenLayer can provide even 1% yield. That's my personal take. Obviously, I could be wrong. 1% real yield without inflationary emission tokens. I don't think EigenLayer can provide 1% off on $20 billion, because that's a huge amount, right? Like you have to provide $200 million worth of 200 is 200 20 bill 2 bill, yeah, $200 million worth of rewards. Where does $200 million worth of revenue annually come from these newer services and chains? It's very hard to expect that. So in a way, my view is that EigenLayer won't be able to provide yield on this $20 billion worth of assets unless the yield comes from inflation or emission, which is never a great thing, but it's debatable.
Yeah, but I think when you have a huge demand for your token, you can do different things, and
Of course,
and
I agree.
that's how this industry works. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Got you. What about yourself as a user, as a crypto holder? Uh, do you use restaking protocols yourself?
I actually do. I've used both EigenLayer and I've used ETHFi. I've used Renzo as well, but currently a user of ETHFi mostly. Again, I do it to farm, EigenLayer points as well. I did it for those reasons because I don't expect EigenLayer to provide yields beyond that. But that's where my differing view comes in, because here I was thinking like, okay, what do I prefer to use once these, restaking protocols start securing chains? Would I do it with Bitcoin or would I do it with ETH? I would most likely, and we are yet to see how it plays out. My belief is that I would absolutely want to do it with my Bitcoin because it can actually provide real yields. It can provide yields through these, because Babylon is going to secure Cosmos chains, which, are app chains and already have emissions for the right reason. It's not just inflating tokens for no reason. There are inflationary tokens, like the Cosmos Hub has about 15% staking rewards. It's, let's say, I don't remember the latest market cap or FDV of the Cosmos Hub, but let's say it's $4 billion. If there's $1 billion worth of Bitcoin securing the Cosmos Hub, and the Cosmos Hub shares 10% of its staking rewards with BTC stakers. That's, Cosmos Hub has 15% staking rewards, so that's 4 billion, that's, 600 mil annual inflationary or annual staking rewards. Of that, 10% is 60 mil. So 60 mil worth of, Atom tokens can be supplied to BTC stakers for securing the Cosmos Hub. Now that's 6% yield. I can visualize the yield. where it could come from. And with so many new Cosmos chains launching, each of them would want Bitcoin security. So for me, I can actually visualize the yield for Bitcoin staked through Babylon, but I cannot do that for EigenLayer in this moment. So I would imagine myself using, Bitcoin restaking more than ETH restaking once Babylon goes live.
Yeah, got you. And you mentioned that so you are doing this restaking things because of the points. What do you think about this incentivization scam in general? I mean, so is it good that people are onboarded with this motivation? Because like, I mean, there's good angle and bad angle about it. So what are your thoughts here?
Well, it's a tough one, man, because my thoughts keep changing on this. Some days I feel good about it, some days not so much. But I think high level, it's always a good thing to incentivize certain types of behaviors. You need to incentivize people to do something. They won't do it without that incentive, that little bit of a push, the carrot. So I like points because of that, because it is a good carrot and it gives projects some flexibility in terms of how they launch and how much yields they provide, how much airdrop they do. But then if projects go down the path of, like leveraging points to, get traction, raise big VC money, and then give users nothing or fuck all, like, yeah, get peanuts from me, then that is not what, gets you excited about points. So for me, I think points is a great way to onboard users, but obviously a little overdone right now. You should be doing it in different ways. You should be more upfront with users about the range, let's say, of the airdrop supply, right? It can't be anywhere between 0 and 100%. It has to be, let's say, between 5 to 7%, 7 to 10%. So users have something to play with. It's not purely like speculative. And you can, value the project based on what you think its actual value should be. So points is good to onboard people, give projects some flexibility in terms of how much supply they use to onboard people, because if they end up onboarding lesser people, is it worth to spend 7% of your tokens? Maybe not, right? Maybe you spend lesser tokens, then you spend 4% on the lower bound. So in a way, it's a good thing, but you need to provide that range and not just play with people's money and emotions and time, because there could be better use of their capital somewhere else.
I cannot not ask you about Telegram apps and like what are your thoughts about Telegram apps as a go-to-market strategy? So you mentioned that you mentioned Ton before, and that they're getting good momentum. And so have you noticed that Telegram apps now getting super super cool traction with super simple points farming apps, I don't know, clickers or everything? So have you considered launching one for you for I don't know, for pSTAKE to get many retail users, even sometimes even non crypto native users? So what are your thoughts on that?
Actually, I personally haven't used these Telegram apps yet, but I've heard a little bit about them. I think it's a good way to tap into retailers, like you said. Our objective is to go after people who are familiar with, staking and the risks. So I would still stay a little bit away from, because we don't know how Babylon is going to play out, right? You are taking third party risk as well. So for me, what's more important is to go after people who understand the risks uh, that come with staking and restaking, and with something so novel like, trustless staking with Bitcoin. So you're still custodying it's like delegating your atom. It's as simple as that. So before we try to get retail onboarded, we should first make sure that the product works, and launch in a beta version, make sure it's all good, and then you use these Telegram apps for getting like every Bitcoin holder, to get excited about this.
Yeah, makes total sense. Makes total sense. Okay, so good luck with the launch then. I hope you will get a good traction with this BTC staking product, and hope everything works well. And yes, you probably at ETC, and thank you for coming. It was really interesting to talk to you.
Thanks, Alex. It was definitely a very interesting conversation as well.